Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1986 horror cult classic, The Hitcher. Now, The Hitcher is one of my all-time favorites. I love this movie. I fell in love with this film the first time that I saw it on VHS late one rainy night. And it's been a film that I have been enamored with and been very appreciative of ever since. And to me, it's the epitome of a cult classic. It's a film that didn't get the recognition that it deserved financially or critically when it came out. And over the years, due to exposure on home video and word of mouth, it has built a pretty considerable fan base to the point that when Second Sight announced this film as being one of the titles that they were going to release on physical media in 2024, it became one of the most anticipated releases of the year. And it's a film to me personally that just has gotten better with every viewing. Like, it's a movie that you can still catch some new things. There are certain aspects of it and certain subtext and certain things about it that can continue to mesmerize you even after all this time. To me, it's not only one of my favorites, I think it's genuinely one of the best horror films ever. And one of the best horror films of the 1980s. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on The Hitcher, I want to give a special shout out to Steven for requesting this review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. The link to both is in the video description down below, and I will try to get your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, The Hitcher is directed by Robert Harmon. And prior to The Hitcher, he had not directed a feature film. He had done a short film before this, but he hadn't directed a full length feature film. And this movie is so finely crafted and so amazing when it comes to its direction that you're hard pressed to believe that this is the work of a first time filmmaker. This is one of the most impressive and incredible first time debuts for a director out there. The direction of The Hitcher is impeccable. It is absolutely astonishing. It's the kind of movie that has a very signature style and flair to it that is very unique. It's got this hazy, shadowy, gritty, smoky feel to it, and it really adds to the nightmarish quality of the scenes involving the Hitcher himself in Rutger Hauer's character. And it's also a film that features a fair amount of action sequences that are shot in ways that are really exciting and really thrilling. And it's just a film that just has this really special draw to it. And I think the direction is definitely a major part of that. How Robert Harmon utilized the various different pans and zooms and other filmmaking techniques at his disposal to create a film that really did leave a significant impact, that visually was absolutely stunning and breathtaking, despite it being kind of a grungy, gritty horror film. But it's got just so much about it visually that is right up there with some of the best filmmakers of the time. So I cannot sing enough praises for Robert Harmon's direction in this. I really cannot. Like, he was unbelievable, if you ask me. And his direction was so good that it alone elevated this film to a higher level. And it's nuts to me that the producers tried to replace him. And it was up to other people involved with the production of the movie to stand up for Robert Harmon so he didn't get fired. And I just cannot even believe that you could have a Hitcher film that doesn't have him behind the camera, because his whole approach to this film was absolutely brilliant. And if you had anybody else behind the camera, this movie wouldn't be anywhere near as good. It would still probably be pretty decent because of the fact that you have such a great cast and you have a really solid script and these other elements that really work. But without Harmon, it just wouldn't really be as special. So yeah, I cannot give him nearly enough credit, if you ask me, when it comes to his involvement and his contributions to the film. Now, The Hitcher is also written by a first-time screenwriter in Eric Red. So not only is this film directed by a first-time filmmaker, it's also written by a first-time writer. And normally that is not a good combo. Normally that leads to both of them having some growing pains that are very obvious, but it's not the case here because Eric Red also knocks it out of the park with his first time out writing a film. This screenplay is spectacular. This is a really amazing script. And it's a prime example of a screenplay that takes something that's pretty simple, just a plot involving this young man who picks up the wrong guy, and it leads to him being terrorized and tormented by this Hitcher until the end of the movie. But it takes that simple concept and just creates something that is consistently compelling and engaging and just grabs you by the throat and never lets up. And it also has some elements of subtext. Like, you could definitely interpret this as a film that is definitely trying to have a bit of a commentary about the panic regarding AIDS, as well as some other instances of subtext and social commentary. But it's under the surface and it's not like in your face and it's not being shoved down your throat. At its core, it's just a story about a young man named Jim Halsey who is put into an extraordinary situation dealing with this psychopathic hitchhiker. And it's one of those stories too and scripts that, despite the fact that there's not really a lot of on-screen gore and violence, it still has a visceral tone and edge to it. And that's because of its intensity when it comes to things like the dialogue. Like, the one of the first exchanges between Jim and John is instantly iconic. They're just talking about gas stations, and then it turns it into something that's absolutely horrific. Gas stations have cigarettes. What about gas? I don't need gas. What do you want? What's so funny? That's what the other guy said. What other guy? That guy back there. The one we just passed. The guy who picked me up before you did. That was him in there? Sure it was. He couldn't have walked very far. Why is that? Because I cut off his legs and his arms and his head, and I'm going to do the same to you. Like it's just such a great exchange between these two characters, and such a really sinister and special way to showcase the craziness of your antagonist in John Ryder. And then you get more lines like that from John throughout the movie, like this. You want to know what happens to an eyeball when it gets punctured? Do you got any idea how much blood jets out of a guy's neck when his throat's been slit? Or the whole exchange between John and the sergeant who's like interrogating him later when they arrest him. It's like, what's your name? Come on, what's your name? Do you have a name? Do you have a police record? Where are you from? Disneyland. Like, there's just so much about this film that I love, and a big part of why this script is so good is because of the dialogue. It's just got great dialogue. And it's not only just between Jim and John, or John and these other people, but also between other characters. There's some great exchanges with Nash and Jim. Like when Nash says, actually, we're all from Mars around here. We keep our spaceship out back. So, what planet are you from? So there's a lot of charm to the script, as well as a lot of genuine menace. And it comes from the dialogue, as well as a lot of the other things that happen throughout the script. And I meant it when I said it grabs you by the throat and it doesn't let go. Because right from the very beginning, as soon as Jim Halsey picks up John Ryder, it's relentless. It does not let up. It is just consistently full of tension and thrills and chills. You even have like a bit early on when he does actually get the Hitcher out of his car. Jim actually kicks him out of his car. When you have that really tense scene where John has the knife to Jim and he's telling him to repeat after him, say that you want to die. And then, you know, Jim kicks him out and he's like, I don't want to die. And then I really like the reaction that Jim has too after he kicks out John Ryder. He just reacts in such a natural way. He just is like, yeah. I love that. It's just such a great natural reaction. It's another way to really make this film really build a genuine connection with the audience from very early on. And you automatically sympathize with Jim and you side with him. And when this nightmare just is never ending and he can't escape from this psychotic Hitcher, and he's getting framed for the murders, and everywhere he goes he just gets more reminders of this psycho. Like he'll go to this diner and meet Nash, and she makes him a nice cheeseburger with some fries, and he's just eating his fries, and he can't even eat fries and get away from this nut job because he's eating fries, and then one of the fries is a finger. So like he can't escape from him even in that scenario. He can't escape from him when he gets arrested and is put in jail because the Hitcher then shows up and uh, opens the jail door so he can get out and then see what the Hitcher has done because he's just massacred everybody in the police station. And it's just continuous. It's just relentless. He will not let up because he has a death wish. What's more terrifying than your average normal psychopath? How about a psychopath with a death wish who wants to die, but he wants to die in a specific way, and you're the person that he's targeted, that he has picked to kill him, and he will not stop until you kill him. I think that's a brilliant idea, and I think it's very well executed in this entire screenplay. And there are a lot of just very harrowing moments in this. The gas station scene when Jim is there and he's just trying to catch his breath at this point. This is after he already encountered the Hitcher, after he thought he took care of him and kicked him out of his car and is done with him. But he sees him in the back seat of this other family's car who has picked him up. And he's trying to tell the couple, the family, to pull over. You got a crazy guy in your car, but he's too late because he winds up killing the family. And he pulls over to this gas station to try to catch his breath and collect his bearings. And the Hitcher shows up there, and now there's gasoline everywhere, and he's having to run as fast as he can to his car uh, before the Hitcher, blows him up, because the Hitcher lights a match and drops it. And so that's a really intense sequence. And you get other intense sequences throughout the film, like the scene with Nash when she's tied up between these two trucks. And that was actually an idea that was brought up and considered by Rutger Hauer. So John Ryder himself is the one that's responsible for that entire sequence. And it was a brilliant idea. It was gruesome, it was grisly, but it was brilliant because it just made the Hitcher all the more horrifying that he was willing to go to that length in order to ensure, this death wish of his. And other things too, like where he weaponizes homosexuality in a way to further make a Jim uncomfortable and manipulate him. And that is an element of the film to me that is very misunderstood in this script. Like Roger Ebert, for instance, thought that this was like disgusting in terms of its homophobia, and that's really what the movie is about. And I'm like, no, it's not really what it's about. It's really just an element of things, and it's just something that John Ryder does that's fucked up. And he's a total psychopath with serious sociopathic tendencies. I wouldn't put it past him or other similar sociopaths and total psychos to do that kind of stuff, to mess with people's heads. Nothing is off limits to them, including, sexual advances towards other men. And that adds another unique sort of element to the film that helps it stand out. And I like how, as it goes on, there are all these different sort of situations and moments where Jim is just trying to give himself up. He's trying to stop running, but the Hitcher won't let him. And it leads to some really thrilling chase sequences, and that even include a helicopter as well as multiple police cars. And you have the climax, which is not as explosive, but it's still really satisfying, where there is honestly an opportunity here after Nash has been killed by the Hitcher, by John Ryder, and John Ryder has been arrested, and Jim has been cleared because there's no way that he's the one that's doing all these murders, despite all the things that John was trying to do to frame him. And he could easily walk away here, but he knows how dangerous John is, and he knows that John will not give up. And he knows that he's the one that has to kill him, that has to stop him. And he's willing to do anything to do that, including holding the I think is the sheriff Yeah, holding, no, it's a captain, holding Captain Etheridge at gunpoint and stealing his car and going up to find the prison bus that John was in, because he knows. It's like there's this connection between the two now, that he just knows that he's going to escape, and that they can't stop him. They can't hold him. And he gets up there behind the bus, and yeah, he's escaped. He's killed everybody on the bus. He breaks through the door, and he jumps at Jim and smashes through the windshield of Estridge's um, Estridge. That's who it is. Estridge's police car, and he is just once again just in Jim's face and not letting up. And Jim could drive away at this point too, but no, he keeps trying to start the engine. And this is the point where the Hitcher is like firing all these shots with this shotgun at him. And you could tell that John is just continually fucking with him at this moment still, because he's deliberately firing in a way where he's not going to kill him. He's shooting at different parts of the car, but he's not really actively trying in a way to kill uh Jim, because that's not what he's trying to do. He's trying to get Jim to man up and kill him. And eventually, he gets the car started, runs John over. And then even at that moment, he could just, all right, he's incapacitated. He's done with. I'm just gonna, drive away, cut my losses, go to San Diego, or go back home. Nope, gets the shotgun, because he just has that sense again that John is not done, and he gets up and throws his the chain that was probably like around his legs onto the ground, and then Jim turns around and pumps him full of like multiple shotgun blasts, complete with blood squibs and everything. And the last shot of the film is him just once again just trying to collect his bearings, just trying to just chill and relax after going through this hellish gauntlet with this psycho Hitcher. And it's just this shot of Jim just sitting there with his arms on the edge of the police car and smoking a cigarette. It's just such a great script that is really honestly mind-blowing that it's the effort of a first-time screenwriter. And I just love it. I love this script. I love how it takes a subtle, simple concept of somebody picking up a psycho Hitcher and then just turns it into something that is just consistently harrowing and compelling throughout the entirety of the story. I love that there isn't a ton of character depth for anyone, but there's enough that you actually care. You care about Jim. You want him to succeed. You want him to stop John. And John is established as a considerable threat and a considerable foe, and one that you honestly love to hate because of just how sadistic he is. You're just like, what is he going to do next? He's that kind of psycho where he's almost unpredictable. And you're like, what kind of crazy, psychotic uh, shit is he going to do next? And I like the stuff with Nash and Jim as well, and it makes her death all the more impactful and tragic, and another just harrowing element of the overall script and the story. And it has a satisfying conclusion and climax where the Hitcher gets pumped full of shotgun blasts. So I cannot sing enough praises for Eric Red's script as well. And another element of the film that is just absolutely incredible and is exceptional is the cast. I mean, Rutger Hauer as John Ryder, this is one of his best roles of his career. I mean, he's done other stuff that he is definitely well worthy of praise for. His role in Blade Runner and other films throughout his career, but The Hitcher is definitely one of my favorites. It's just such a cold, calculating, chilling performance. It really shows his uh, acting muscles. It really shows how versatile of an actor he was. He can play a charismatic good guy in something like Wanted Dead or Alive and Blind Fury, but he can also play a absolutely intimidating psycho that you do not want to be uh, in the same room with, or honestly, even in the same city with, because he's just that menacing and just that good at what he does, which is mentally manipulate people and pile up a pretty significant body count. Apparently, Sam Elliott was the original actor who was cast to play this character, and he did such a good job. He scared the shit out of the director or one of the producers, but he had some scheduling conflict and couldn't do it. So then they wound up going with Rutger Hauer, and I can't think of anybody else playing this role, to be honest, other than Rutger. He was that good as John Ryder. C. Thomas Howell, he plays Jim Halsey, and this is, in my opinion, his best acting performance. He's done some other good work in other films, but to me, this is his best work. Because this is not necessarily the easiest role to pull off, because there's a lot of different layers and nuances to Jim. You have to believably show him as a guy who is vulnerable, uh, easily kind of manipulated, intimidated, like the kind of guy who doesn't necessarily seem like somebody who's going to take out a serial killer at the beginning of the film, but is still able to grow into that role as the film goes on, and he becomes more and more desperate. And he eventually builds the courage to fight back. So I think that that is definitely something that is easier said than done. And I feel that C. Thomas Howell really did a great job with all those nuances of that character. And he has a certain inherent charisma to him and a charm to him as well that he definitely brings to this. And I know there were some other actors that were considered, and one of them was like Emilio Estevez, and I think he could have also done a amazing job. But I'm still really glad that C. Thomas Howell got it, because it was something very different for him at the time, and it was another role for him to show to people that, hey, I'm more than just a Brat Pack kind of actor. Like, I can do more than just that kind of role. And him and Rutger Hauer had some really good chemistry, which I think is another thing that was really uh, uh, important for the success of this film. Jennifer Jason Leigh, she's in it as Nash. Not a very significant role, but she makes the most that she can out of a small role. And she also has some good chemistry and rapport with C. Thomas Howell. And you also have Jeffrey DeMunn, who was also in the Blob remake. He played Captain Esteridge. he was pretty solid in the few scenes that he had. Same thing goes for John M. Jackson as Sergeant Starr, Billy Greenbush as Trooper Donner, Jack Thibault as Trooper Prestone, and all the other actors who played the different, troopers, or, the interrogation sergeant played by Armin Shimmerman. But definitely, this is a film where three main actors are really the ones that um, have the most screen time and really have to carry it. And Rutger Hauer, C. Thomas Howell, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. And they all do tremendous jobs doing just that. Now, the film also features some really wonderful cinematography by John Seal. I love the look of this movie. Like I said, the direction is very smoky and hazy, and so is the cinematography. It's just a really great looking movie. It has a very signature style to it. It almost looks dusty and sandy as well, which really does fit the overall setting of the film. And it just oozes with mood and atmosphere. And the cinematography by Seal is a big part of that. And I think it's edited in an excellent fashion by Frank J. Roste. Um, there are so many moments in this that are just so much more intense, so much more impactful because of the way that they're edited. The action scenes, the various different exchanges between the characters, the first time you see John Ryder, on the side of the road, and when he gets picked up. There's just a lot about this film editing wise that is very exemplary. And is another reason why this film is just so fucking good. And then you have the score by Mark Isham, which is also incredible. Like, this is a really good score. It's very atmospheric. It's very eerie. It just adds an almost ethereal quality to the film, and really does provide a good extra emphasis to a lot of different scenes in this movie. It makes the creepy scenes all the more creepier. It makes the more mysterious scenes all the more mysterious. It makes the action sequences all the more exciting and thrilling to watch because of the score and how it's implemented. And it's paced very well. It's like 97 minutes, but it doesn't really have a dull moment. There's no lag. There's no moment where anything sags or gets bogged down. It's just white knuckle all the way through. So yeah, I just cannot uh, um, praise this film enough. I love this movie, and if for whatever reason you haven't seen this film yet, you definitely have to check this out. You really have to see The Hitcher, because The Hitcher is an absolute classic, and it's one of the best horror films of the 80s, if not out there, period. Like, it really is that good of a film. And the 4K set by Second Sight, which I'm just going to grab here again. I can't recommend this enough either. If you're a fan of this film, you definitely have to either get this limited edition or get the regular, like the non-limited edition. The Warner Brothers release is fine too, because it uses the same transfer, because this transfer is absolutely tremendous. Like, the film has never looked or sounded better, because there's also an Atmos track which sounds amazing. It's like seeing this film with completely new eyes because of just how good the remaster is on this release. This is easily a contender for one of my favorite releases from 2024. It really is. It is so good. So, yeah, that's just my thoughts on The Hitcher. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. See ya.